delighted this afternoon to be joined at the Lincolnite by Shadow Arts Minister Chris Bryant. Welcome, Chris.
Hi there.
And we're also pleased to be joined by Lucy Rigby, Labour's parliamentary candidate for Lincoln. Welcome to the Lincolnite again, Lucy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Chris, if I can start off with you. The Labour manifesto clearly sets out that aside from protected areas such as health, education and international development, there are going to be budget cuts to various government departments. What will be cut in the arts budget?
I hope we won't be making any cuts to the arts budget. The most important thing is we've said that of course we've got to live within our means as a country. We can't, there's no magic money tree, though if you were to look at the Tory manifesto at the moment, with all the spending spree that they've come up with, none of it costed you think there was a magic money tree. We're aware of that. But the Tories want to balance the books in 2 years, and we've said that that's a task for the whole of this Parliament. We want to get the deficit down as fast as possible, but we think if you make too aggressive cuts in the next 2 years, that will decimate, well, worse than decimate, arts budgets and local authority budgets, which they depend on.
So just to clarify, there won't be any cuts to the arts budget?
Well, I think the whole package of the of DCMS spending, that's the Department of Culture, Media and Sport spending, will come down, but I don't foresee any spending cuts for the Arts Council budget. And you've just got to look at our record. When we were in government, we trebled Arts Council funding. The Tories have cut it by a third.
Okay. You've both been at Lincoln Castle this morning, the newly reopened and refurbished Lincoln Castle. And there's been lots of talk over the last couple of weeks about whether it will be privatised or not, or whether it will be sold off by Lincolnshire County Council. I'm surprised though by your reactions though. Surely you'd want a private company or a charity to be in charge of it instead of a Tory-controlled county council.
No, because in the end it belongs to Lincolnshire County Council, just like the Tennyson Research Centre as well, which was fundraised for by John Betjeman and others, and lots of public people in Lincolnshire. It should belong to the people of Lincolnshire. It should be run by the people of Lincolnshire. And personally, as a Shadow Arts Minister, somebody who hopes to be the Arts Minister in 10 days' time, I just don't think you can hive off every single part of the national constitutional family silver, if you like. You know, there's that great speech in Richard II by Shakespeare. It's very famous, all about this sceptred isle, this England, this demi-paradise, and it ends, this England is now leased out. And that's exactly what it is with the Tories. And I think it's in their head, it's ideological. You know, they look at the NHS, they think, well, how can we get more and more and more of that into the private sector? They look at our culture, how can we get more and more of that into the private sector? And I just don't think it's appropriate.
Lucy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I agree with that. I think Lincoln Castle, you know, I went there the other day, I was doing the wall walk all the way around. It's absolutely fantastic. You've had £22 million worth of public money been poured into the castle. It's one of our top visitor attractions here in Lincoln. Just an ideological desire to privatise things, I think, is a bit silly. An attraction like that should be you know, with the Magna Carta, with our 800th anniversary, got so much going on right now. Something like that should be making money for the public purse, for the taxpayer here in Lincoln. I think that's really, really important. And
also, I just don't trust what the council leader's saying, because they've been trying to tell the press that, oh, no, they haven't got any plans at all to do anything of the kind. And yeah, it's in the tender documents. And when I tweeted about this earlier today, the council leader tweeted back at me and he said, oh, it's scandalous you're saying this, it's typical Labour lies, you know, we're not intending to sell it off. And I said, why is it in the tender document? And he said, well, it's only the management that we're thinking of. In other words, what he's saying with one side of his face that he's not doing, he's saying with the other side of his face he is doing.
Okay, let's move on to... you obviously made national headlines earlier this year to do with your row with James Blunt, to do with privileged and people from privileged backgrounds dominating sort of the art scene and culture. What can be done to help ordinary people in Lincoln sort of jump up the ladder and be involved in arts and sort of on a national and international scale even?
Yeah, James Blunt, I think he's almost flirting with me now, because he keeps on tweeting to me that we should meet up. I'm not sure whether that'll end, but look, I mean, there's two things I think we can do. The first thing is we should say that every single school in this country should provide a really good artistic and cultural education to every child. Because if you take part in a play as a kid, It teaches you to turn up on time, to be part of a team, gives you self-confidence, to see the world through somebody else's eyes. I mean, all of that is a really positive part of changing somebody's experience. So we'll say that Ofsted will not be allowed to say that a school is good or outstanding unless it's good or outstanding artistic and cultural education. But the second thing is that all too often the only way you can get into the arts as your first job is by taking on an unpaid internship. I mean, if you look at the adverts, dozens of them say 6-month unpaid internship. Well, the only people who can conceive of doing that are people who've got a family behind them with money, who don't mind if you're not putting anything in the family purse at the end of the week. So we're saying, sorry, no more unpaid internships, longer than 4 weeks. Of course, work experience, that's fine. But beyond 4 weeks, frankly, if you're working, you should be paid.
Lucy, what do you think you could do on a more local level in the next 5 years if you were elected as MP?
Well, I thought that actually I was going to say, you're talking about kind of social mobility in effect, and I don't know if you saw the figures that came out earlier this week from the Sutton Trust, figures for here in Lincoln. They said that in Lincoln we've got the lowest levels of social mobility in the whole country. I mean, it was really low. We're very, very low down the list. So I think one of the top priorities of whoever is lucky enough to represent our great city, in 8 days' time, improving the the job opportunities, the life chances of young people here in Lincoln it's got to be absolutely key.
There's one other thing I'd say, Zanny, which is there was a cross-party report done last year on Arts Council funding and where it went in the UK. It was £21 per head spent on people living in central London, and outside central London, £4 a head. So you asked me earlier about arts cuts. What I want to see is a rejigging of the arts budget so that it's not all going to big national organisations in the centre of London and is spread out much more across the whole of the country.
Sure. Final question then. Lincoln's got not just one but two fantastic universities. A lot of focus is sort of put on sort of the so-called STEM subjects, so science, technology, engineering and maths. Is there a danger there by prioritising and focusing on those that you neglect arts degrees?
Well, there is a bit of a danger, and what we've said is we need to go from STEM to STEAM, which is to add the A. You've worked it out, obviously, I can see. You're clever, aren't you? I think it's important. But I was incensed when Nicky Morgan, who's the Tory Secretary of State for Education, said that if you have an arts qualification, it will hold you back for the rest of your life. Well, I mean, that's just not true. It's just not true. And actually, for so many people, if they had greater self-confidence and ability to express themselves, they'd be able to flourish in whatever job. And there's also lots of really strong academic evidence to show that if you do an arts subject, it helps you prosper, be better at other subjects as well. Yes, and one of the ways of changing that is the way that schools are evaluated in the league tables. We've got to change that as well so that the arts aren't just ignored and set to one side. We've seen a drop in the number of youngsters involved in dance, in music, in theatre over the last 5 years. We've got to reverse that, because in the end I want more people to read a book, go to a theatre, go to a museum, go to open a play of their own, write their own play, whatever, all of that, because then we're a fuller, livelier country.
Lucy?
Yeah, how can you disagree with that? Obviously, I totally agree. And, I want to win here in Lincoln so that Chris can, remove the shadow from before his name and be the Secretary of State.
But I want us to win because I think I'm better than I mean, I know the MP here. I've seen him across the House of Commons. His record on gay marriage, let alone on so many, when he made hideous comparisons, let alone on so many other issues. This is a woman who would represent Lincoln today, not Lincoln in the 1950s.
Okay, Chris, Bryant, Lucy Rigby, thank you for your time.